Hey everyone, welcome to another Sophisticated Saturday where together we work through my to-do list and get things done around the house. So I actually started this morning by roasting some veggies there. You'll see I have butternut squash, I have a zucchini and an eggplant. Henry has just started eating at daycare now, so I need to prepare some food to send to daycare with him, and I have been making purees to give them. They said I could bring them in like whatever form I want, either fresh or I'm gonna do some frozen cubes. I think it's just a lot easier for them, and then I can batch cook things and give them a bunch of different foods so he doesn't have like the same thing for a full week. And then I also cut them in a style that we can use for like baby-led weaning, if you know what that is. You give your baby basically like strips that they can hold on to, and it helps them learn how to self-feed. So even when I do purees, I load a spoon for him and then he feeds himself. If you don't have a baby, it's kind of like a newer wave of baby feeding. If you do have a baby, you're probably familiar with the concept, whether you used it or didn't. So I'm gonna do like half puree, half saving some of these types of things for more baby-led weaning at home, because I don't think they'll do that at school. They said I could bring store-bought baby food, but I just prefer to make my own. And then I'm also making some boba. I just have this like little bit left of boba here, so I want to finish it up. I made some tea this morning, so I'm boiling water, and I'm gonna have that as a little treat while I puree up this butternut squash. I think I'm gonna do first. This butternut squash was so moist. All I needed to do was put it in the blender and blend it up, and it turned into the perfect puree. I'm using my Super Cubes 2 tablespoon trays and just loading it up, and I'm giving daycare the instruction that they can feed them as much of the food as they want. There's kind of no limit, so whenever he says he's done, or if he's hungry, just keep feeding him if he seems interested. These 2 tablespoon trays are so useful, but again, especially for baby food. So I'm excited to send those to school with him, use them at home a little bit, but I just think they're really convenient. I tell myself this every single time I make any sort of freezer meal. The biggest advice I can give to you or to myself, which I don't always take, is to label, label, label. You think you're going to remember what you freeze, and it happens every single time that I forget. So I'm making sure that I label this stuff, especially since it's going to daycare and I want to know what I'm sending. And I did actually forget to label one of these things, even though I'm saying this and I just harp on it all the time. I forgot to label one, and it's not that big of a deal, but let's say there was an allergy or something and there was a green cube, but I didn't know if it was green beans or zucchini and didn't know what he was allergic to. That would obviously be an issue. So you'll see that I did add in the boba. I got those started, and I think I let these sit way too long because they ended up being a little bit harder and did not float to the top like they usually do. They just didn't turn into the boba that it usually does. So I'll show that process in just a minute, but I did freeze some of the butternut squash. I'm popping it out of the Super Cubes, and then I'm just putting them into freezer bags and labeling each row. I'm trying to diversify the different types in each bag instead of just doing one giant bag of squash, one giant bag of zucchini and eggplant and stuff. So that way I can bring a bag at a time to school, and they don't have to feed him the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. He can have a few different options. So like I said, the boba didn't really float to the top like it usually does. It was not as good as it is when I eat it fresher, I guess, from the package. I always mix it with a little bit of honey, some ice, and then Thai tea is my favorite. I top it off with some milk, and that is it. A little bit of a life update because we have a moment. The boys are asleep right now, taking a nap. I wanted to share more on the job front. If you've been following me for a while, you know that my company had a restructuring, mass layoff about 2 weeks after I came back from my maternity leave. And I did find it's like a part-time job, but you can work as much as you want. So I'm trying to work enough to make it full-time, but it's taken a while to ramp things up, and now things are really, really starting. It's been about the past 2 weeks that I've been truly working a lot. So that's been difficult because even though I got this job a while ago, I was kind of onboarding and learning about it, and there's no paycheck associated with that. This job is when I work, I get paid every time I'm reviewing documents because that's basically what I'm doing. I'm a lawyer, if you don't know that. I get paid for every document I'm reviewing, and with the onboarding, there was none of that, and that has been very difficult. This whole transition has been very difficult. I'm trying to figure out if this is the right thing for me, all of that type of stuff, and I have been using BetterHelp. If you have not heard of BetterHelp, it is an online therapy service, so you can get therapy from the comfort of your own home. That's really important to me because of all of the things going on in life. I'm a mom of 2 very young kids, and it's just so much more convenient for me to be able to chat with a therapist, whether it be over the computer or on my phone. You can use messaging, you can do a video call or just over the phone with them. You can switch it up every time you meet with them. I just love that I can connect with a therapist who is able to help with my specific needs and has experience with what I'm going through, whether that's concerns about family dynamics, being somewhat newly postpartum, or career changes, all of that type of stuff. So if that's something you feel like you could benefit from, you can use my link, head to betterhelp.com. You will be prompted to answer a few questions so they can help match you with a licensed therapist that's going to best help suit your needs. And typically you will be matched with a therapist in about 48 hours or so. So the process moves very quickly. It's so flexible in terms of scheduling, messaging, chatting, all of that stuff, like I said. And I've had times where I've had to cancel therapy sessions, reschedule them, all of that stuff. So it's just the most flexible, most convenient, and I would highly recommend it. So I am going to join my therapy session, and then we will get back to the rest of the Sophisticated Saturday. So obviously you saw I jumped right into things with roasting vegetables, making baby food, the therapy session, some boba, and with all of that done, now I'm gonna head upstairs and make my bed. I have clothing everywhere. I'm gonna get stuff put away into our laundry baskets, pick up kids' toys. Owen was awake from his nap at this point, so I am going to throw the stuffed animals into his room, and same with Henry. I was able to pop into his room and do some of the laundry that I washed for him and fold it all up. Henry has been wearing this size for a little bit. He is like 7.5 months old, and most of this clothing is 6 to 9 months. And I'm still finding stuff that have those really, really long tags in the inside. The second time around, or I guess maybe partway through getting and having clothing with Owen, I started really cutting those tags out, but I got a lot of hand-me-downs that didn't have the tags cut out. So now I'm just much more conscious of it. When I get new clothing, I sit down and I cut them all out because they're so long and they're like in the hip of clothing. And I would assume it would bother them, it would bother me. I cut a lot of my tags out like that, and they do have the dotted line to cut it out. So I'm curious, do you guys do that? Do you cut out your own personal tags that are really long in the sides of clothing, or do you do it for your kids? Some of them have just a printed size on the inside, so it is kind of a pain if you have hand-me-down clothing or clothing you've just washed a lot, because sometimes that rubs off and then I don't know what size it is anymore if you've cut that hip tag off, I want to call it. And I don't do anything special in terms of laundry for kids clothing. I essentially do not believe in kids clothing. Oh look, here's another one that needs to be laundered in a specific way. This, I don't know, I kind of want to keep this one on because I can't read the size here, so I'm going to leave this one actually. But I don't really believe in kids clothing that needs to be laundered in a specific way. I frankly do not have time for that, especially a baby when he's like 7 months old. We don't need to be hang drying stuff, washing in cold water, all of that. Honestly, nonsense. If there's like a special occasion, here we go again. If there's a special occasion for like a wedding and we get them a really nice outfit or something, maybe. But beyond that, then it's just probably not the right clothing for them. I'm not going to invest in that. And let's see, even if it does say that, I'm just gonna wash it and dry it and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and that outfit was probably a lost cause because I'm gonna inevitably forget about it at some point. It's just way easier to toss everything in the wash, everything in the dryer. We have a lot of bamboo pajamas, which I am obsessed with. And I know a lot of people hang dry those. I have always washed and dried mine with the rest of my kids' clothing and haven't had a single issue. So I'm sure they would last longer if you do hang dry them, but again, I don't have the patience for that. We have a ton of kids' clothing, and it is It's so bittersweet watching these sizes change. I get really excited to pull out his new clothing, but also it's so sad how quickly babies move through clothing. It's every 3 months. So I am just flying through the fact that he is in his 6 to 9 month clothing is just mind blowing to me. And then I know it'll slow down after he kind of hits a year. Then clothing switches out every 6 months, and then it's usually closer to a year. So just wild that he is getting so much closer to being a year old. I knew this was going to happen. He's my second baby, so I knew how fast it went, but it just goes so much faster with a second. There's a lot of distractions going on. Having 2 kids, you're not just focused on that one little baby, so time is flying. even faster with 2 if that's possible, but I'm trying to savor every moment and enjoy him being little while he is. Okay, back into the bedroom and the bathroom, I guess more accurately. You'll see I left everything everywhere when I was getting ready because when the boys went down for a nap, I wanted to pounce on it, and a lot of times I just don't have hands to put things away. So I took a moment to put things away, and then you'll see a little dose of reality here. I don't share this a lot, but I am a breastfeeding mom, and so I'm pumping a lot through the day. Henry is exclusively breastfed. Owen was exclusively breastfed. And if you have ever breastfed a baby in any capacity, whether it's like breastfeeding directly, pumping, a combination, even if you supplement, it is not an easy journey. There's so many things involved with it. It is so time consuming. I feel like my days at home when the boys aren't here and I'm pumping all the time, it is just like multiple hours out of my day, whether it's going to pump. I can usually do stuff while I am pumping, but the washing of the bottles and the measuring of the milk and getting it ready for daycare and all of that stuff is just very time consuming and mentally draining as well. So it is not easy if you've ever gone through that, but thought I would just share that moment because it is a part of my day every single day, many times a day. So now I'm just going to pick up Owen's room a little bit, put some of his books away, make his bed. He had some clothing that I washed that was extra stained that I threw in another round to try and get those stains out. So I was just checking to make sure the stains came out and folding it up and putting it away in his dresser. So right now what I'm doing is I am making a little quinoa dish because I did have leftovers for dinner tonight and I don't need to really make anything, but I felt like it wasn't quite enough food. So I Googled a few recipes to try and think of making something that I could offhand. And I am not going to include any link to a recipe because I just kind of looked at a few different ones and I'm totally winging this. I was looking at some that were like a Southwest quinoa salad. I wish I had black beans. I thought I did when I started making this, but I didn't. So I added chickpeas, you'll see a little bit later, and some corn. But I'm adding spices like cumin and chili powder, a little bit of honey, some lime, olive oil, and I'm also going to add in a bunch of chopped veggies, which you'll see here in a second. I happened to have these little mini bell peppers. I'm going to chop them up finely, and some avocado I'll add in there, as well as cilantro, and just make this little side dish to beef up what we had and make it more of a full meal. You'll see I'm combining all of the ingredients here, and I'm going to mix it up and get it ready for dinner. That is it for today's Sophisticated Saturday. I hope that you enjoyed. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up. I always really appreciate that. But until next time, I will see you all later.